The story of Cain and Abel is simply a story about you. It has absolutely nothing to do with people that lived 2,000 years ago. What I'm about to tell you is something you won't learn in church because your preacher has just been taught to retell these stories, but they haven't been taught to dissect these stories and understand the deeper esoteric meaning of these stories. The basic concept behind the story of Cain and Abel is the concept of the dual nature that exists within each of us. For example, all of us have a spiritual side and a materialistic side, and often those two sides will wrestle for dominance. You see, the Hebrew word for Cain is cain, which is related to the verb kana, which means to acquire, to get. And this is exactly what our material nature wants to do. It wants to acquire, it wants to get, it wants to obtain, it wants to be selfish. In a nutshell, the story of Cain and Abel is simply a story about our higher and lower self, our higher and lower nature. Cain, for example, is our lower materialistic nature that wants to get and obtain from the earth and make ours. And the spiritual is Abel, which wants to sacrifice everything that they have, to sacrifice themselves, to give this false identity, their false ego over in order to commune with God. The story tells us that Cain offered the fruit of the ground, that which is earthly and material, and Abel, on the other hand, offered his firstborn, which is symbolic of himself. The basic concept of the story is that in order to commune with God or Source, you have to become more like God or Source. You have to elevate from your materialistic nature, your worldly nature. You have to ascend into the spiritual nature, which is releasing, letting go of the worldly cares and your ego, practicing non-attachment. These sort of things get you closer to the source. So by Cain killing Abel, this was symbolic of our materialistic nature suppressing our spiritual nature. You see, the name Abel means breath and is often associated with spirit. For example, when God breathed life into Adam, he was breathing spirit into Adam. So this story is really a message of caution to not let your materialistic nature outweigh your spiritual nature. Now, as the story goes, we know that God prefers Abel's offering over Cain's offering. That's why Cain killed Abel, because Cain was symbolic of that which stifles spirituality, that which interrupts communion with divine source. So the challenge is to become like Abel, to become a shepherd and help the lost sheep, help them understand these truths about themselves and be able to commune with God more, to understand that these are allegories, these aren't meant to be taken literal. But the story of Cain and Abel is nothing new. This is not a new concept. These are common motifs that have been borrowed from thousands and thousands of years ago from other religions and spiritual practices. For example, in ancient Egypt or Kemet, you would have Osiris, who could sometimes be seen standing upright with what in his hands? A staff, a shepherd's staff, and a flail. What is a flail used for? It's used for separating the wheat and the tare, okay? And then the staff is a shepherd's staff. So you have these concepts and ideas that have always been there, but they've been retold in a different way in different religions. So we are to liken ourselves to Osiris in many ways. We have possession of the crook and the flail in our own possession within ourselves. We have that materialistic nature and that spiritual nature. We have the nature of duality that exists within us. So we have the control over that if we so choose to be aware of it. I hope this has been edifying or at least entertaining to someone. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to follow, like, leave a comment, share with someone you know. And until next time, be ye wise as serpents.